Hi, welcome once again to the next episode of Shifting Focus, a talk with Sanjay Gupta. I hope all of you are absolutely safe, sound, and healthy with your nears and dears. My name is Sanjay Gupta. I work with DS Group as VP, and I'm responsible for its packaging development and procurement vertical. As you know, here in this show, we invite one of the most influential, thought provoking business leaders, innovators, game changers, and inspiration models who speak their mind about various effects arise due to this pandemic and way forward in the changing business landscape. Today, I'm very much delighted and honored to invite Mr. Paritosh Wali, who holds the key leadership responsibility with ITC to identify and develop new businesses in the FMCG businesses. And he is holding the executive VP in the new business cells and heads this division. He has a very rich experience of more than 20. If I'm not wrong, he joined ITC fresh from his campus and has climbed the corporate ladder exponentially ever since he has an experience of more than 20 years in ITC, managing various important domains and verticals. Mr. Wali is an alumni of prestigious IIT Madras and London Business School from London. Prior to this current portfolio, he was the chief operating officer for the confections cluster of businesses, biscuits, cakes, and confectionery food division. He also served in tobacco businesses, where he led large-scale improvements programs across the businesses and was responsible for talent induction and development of management trainees. He was instrumental in development of a comprehensive supply chain model for the company's FMCG businesses, which is very, very important in today's scenario. And I think whole industry is struggling for the supply chain. In his previous stint, he was seconded to the lifestyle retail businesses to work on their business strategy. Very importantly, uh, he led the development of a quick response sourcing model and set up India's first GIT facility in the garment industry, which is now a case study on agile supply chain in Kellogg School of Businesses. Again, supply chain is a very, very important parameter which has come out in this pandemic. Anybody, any organization, any company who is working on the supply chain, they are in the winning situation. Paritosh has previously held leadership roles in core factory and supply chain operations and led multiple change initiatives across the tobacco and packaging businesses, spanning BPR, introduction of MRP second, etc. So I once again welcome Paritosh on this show and thank you so much for sparing your valuable time. And I think your voice would be very critical for the industry with your rich experience. I think all of us would be benefited by your views and insights.
Thanks for having me over. I don't know how much you will benefit, but I'm always happy to have a conversation with somebody.
Oh, so nice of you. So nice of you. So I will start the conversation. Paritosh, I will ask my first question. I think there had been various P's on marketing, 5 P's, 7 P's. As I understand, there are 9 P's of marketing, such as product, process, partnership, physical evidence, people, promotion, place, price, productivity, and packaging, which are required to develop marketing strategy and then continually evaluate associated business activities. How this never thought P of this pandemic is affecting above 9 P's of formula. Is it very relevant? How the things will change? How the things will take shape? So I think your experience. Please tell us something about this, about 10th P of this marketing.
So I think, yeah, if you ask me, at one level, everything will change, right? At another level, nothing will change. Why I say that? is that if you see the core points of these 9 P's, what is it? First is that in any marketing issue, you have to solve a consumer issue or a consumer pain point, or you identify a unstated need, and you find a solution to that. That's your first task as a marketer. The second task is to say that is this solution which I am finding to somebody's problem, or is this solution to some unstated need which I am solving, does it have the price value equation for the person to pay that money? So that's the pricing decision in that, right? So that's the second point. Now, so if you've got a product which is solving a problem, you've got a pricing which the consumer finds relevant, then you say, okay, is it now accessible to the consumers for whom this problem is relevant, which is your place? So it is accessible. Now it's accessible, but there will be other people also. So am I doing enough to make sure that it is visible and easily accessible? So is it packaged well? Is it promoted well? Is it placed well? And so on, right? So those form the classical P's of marketing in a sense.
Yes.
Now behind that, assuming that you have cracked each of these, behind that is this whole piece of, do you have the processes to keep doing this continuously? Do you have the people to do it continuously? And hence, do you have the basic economic model in place to do this consistently for your consumer and do this on an ongoing basis? This principle has not changed. What has changed is the context in which these principles are getting applied. That has changed, I think, drastically. So in a sense, these principles will remain same. What has changed is, how do I now see what are the new pain points people are solving? So if you look at the start of the pandemic, the whole pain point was, how do I get my goods across? There were lockdown, there were issues, supply chains were completely closed. The core issue was that. So I think the industry has managed to find some solutions to that. Then second thing was, given fear in people's mind, how is your brand? Is your brand trusted? Now that's where the equity of a brand comes in. What have you been doing in the past, and how do you communicate to people saying we are with you? So if you see most brand communication in this period, it changed from speaking very functionally about the product, but about relating to people saying, yes, we understand you are in a problem like this. This is how we are trying to help you in our own small way. So your communication change, your promotion methodology change. You are trying to somehow get around supply chains and make sure things happen. Right? So that is one thing for current brands. At the same time, a lot of other opportunities got created. This pandemic led to fear. It led to the whole creation of this psyche of hygiene becoming so much more important. The whole health and hygiene area has exploded. It led to staples becoming much more salient, saying, will I get atta, will I get biscuits or not? So I need to hold. So how do you manage that? That was the need of that hour, right? And so on. It also led to many such changes in consumers, so hence it created new opportunities. Then also, it created opportunities for startups. Saying, okay, people are missing this. How can I now make sure I deliver? So you had a lot of agile startups who were very locally organized, very fast, quick and nimble to organize, who completely pivoted their business models to help saying, okay, yes, I will do this. Like you heard of Ninja Cart. Ninja Cart is now is going everywhere to so many cities with fresh grocery. In the space of 3-4 months, they were among the first to respond.
Yes.
Among many others. Right. So it has created its own set of opportunities. So I think these parts have changed. Second is your way of reaching to people. The whole digitization which has happened of everything. People are spending much more time digitally, right? And digital commerce. And my parents never ordered on Big Basket
Now
before
they're
this.
ordering.
Now they're comfortable saying it बड़ा convenient है, बड़ा आराम से हो जाता है. Now that is going to continue. Similarly, the way the whole e-commerce business has accelerated. We have so many more different touch points which as a marketer you need to exploit. So ordering is on your phone. So how do you reach people on the phone? How do you make sure your app is available? How do you make sure you're nudging at the right moments where decisions are being taken and all that? So that whole acceleration has changed. So that part of marketing has changed. So in a sense, some of these are here to stay. So this is one. The other thing I would say, so hence I would say in some, the principles of marketing have not changed,
Okay.
but the context has changed, and this has been an accelerated context change. It's not that context has not been changing. 70 years ago, there was no TV. TV came in, it led to a certain way of doing marketing. There were no retail chains. It led to a certain way of doing retail chains, right? It led to organized retail. It led to certain things, and so on and so forth. This has been a very fast contextual change, and it has accelerated certain behaviors much more emphatically because there was no other choice. So I think that's the way I would define it. To me, actually, the larger question is like this. Is as an organization, how do you keep this perspective alive that things can change? And do you build that resilience and agility in your organization, which enables you to respond to this kind of a sudden construct change? Typically, you speak of organizations and say change is happening, and there's normal change which you evolve to, then there is disruptive change. This is like disruptive change compressed in 1 year, so which is like a once a century phenomenon. And the only way any company or any organization can respond to that is if you are one constantly thinking about certain things. Of course, you couldn't have predicted the pandemic, but equally, are your people and your processes resilient enough, agile enough to be able to match up to that? And are you able to think through these things very fast? And are you able to organize yourself very fast for dealing with this crisis and or any disruption for that matter? To me, that's the large change which has happened.
So I was on this same context. I was talking to some of my friends in IIT Delhi, where I was
Hmm.
talking on agility and resilience. So I think for
Hmm.
any organization, these two parameters very very important. How soon you can react to any situation like disaster
Correct.
management. I think these are
Correct.
very important areas as of now.
Yeah, and nobody was I mean, there are organizations who constantly say, everybody says this. We are living in a VUCA world. Yes, everybody knew that, but to have it done in such a short time, it really showed which are the organizations that are capable of responding, which are not capable of responding.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
So, and how do you do that in a city? And this one had more complications. Deal with people's safety, your own people's safety. How do you get jobs going when people are themselves unsure? How do you get people to come to factories? How do you get people to go to retailers? Certain parts you can automate. So retail you can automate, distribution you can automate, you can take on phone, you can do. But certain parts are physical, right? How do you get people to do that in a safe and secure manner? Then your own how you have dealt with employees makes a huge difference. If people know that you're covering their back all through, and they've always covered your back, then the trust level is very high. Then
yes.
everybody puts in processes, right? But an organization which has always backed its people, their people respond very fast. So I was quite amazed at the way all our units responded. Amazing. The speed at which we were able to come through. Really good because that relationship is very deep. And same holds for across the marketing chain. If your relationships have been built over time, in a crisis, then you all come together.
Yes.
If your relationships have been transactional, then you're likely to take some more time because there is fear, there is lack of trust.
Do you feel that the startups are doing little better than the old established organization in this crisis situation?
See, I think any organization which has agility built in and has that dexterity to recognize things and do it fast is doing well. And I think it cuts across both the startup world and the corporate world. And in the corporate world also, if you see, for example, everybody recognizes the need for health and hygiene products. You look at the number of products, let's say Savlon has launched, even Divas has launched. It's not that they're the only people. But people have been able to do that. There's an agility which a large organization has also displayed. And startups have been able to do that also very well. Both have been able to do that. But I would argue that things which are adjacent to you, to a company's business, there the agility which a large organization will have can be faster deployed. Whereas things which are completely new, so completely new stuff, you need to be very different. There may be startups because they are smaller, nimbler, and maybe their processes are also better organized for agile kind of operations, they are able to respond faster.
One more question. Do you feel that in this pandemic or crisis situation, perfection is more important or delivery is more important without compromising on quality? Because there are certain house parameters of any organization. If you see packaging or a labeling or a delivery
Right.
channel, so
Hmm.
delivery without compromising is more important, or the perfection has been more important in this crisis. Don't say both are important.
Yeah, no, I won't say both are important. I think it's a matter of context. It's a matter of context, right? If you are and the answer is the consumer should decide. If at the stage you say that right now consumer does not have access to this,
Hmm.
will you solve it in some measure, saying I'm 80%, 90% solved? Of course, it has to be safe and secure and has to follow law and all that. But will you solve it there, or you say no? My process demands that I will test it for 6 months, then I will do something. I will go to 10 people for pricing. Will you do all that, which are your standard process in a big company, or will you say no? Here there is a need. I think there is an opportunity or a need and a problem which I need to solve. I should first solve it. It may not be the best solution, but I think that delivery is much more important.
I think one of the most relevant answer which I have got for the industry, because industry is quite confused, and you have given a very straightforward, transparent, honest answer what industry should behave. Ultimately, consumer should get the material. I think that is there.
Correct.
Access should be there. You
Yeah.
in a due course of time you can go to the perfection in all other areas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank
Agreed.
you so much. Thank you so
And
much.
that is one of the differences, Sanjay, between startups and big companies. It's like so. In my earlier role, I was doing a traditional big company role, right? In this one, I'm also trying to look at newer businesses, newer areas, and in that process, I'll spend some time understanding how startups work. The concept of a minimum valuable product, which is like a base product, good enough, may not be the best. It is so ingrained in startups. It is so ingrained in tech companies.
Hmm.
It is so ingrained. They're all comfortable with that. Whereas big companies want to get everything right, and then there is an approval loop, and then there is the
Yes,
whole process is designed for perfection, right? It is not designed for go in, test out, improve, go in, test out. It's not designed for that. And it need not have been because you're dealing with a different set of issues. And that's different.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. My next question is rural versus urban. So I'm
Hmm.
sharing with you some data, I think, which might be useful for the consumer and I think you can answer the queries.
Hmm.
India is predominantly a rural country
Yeah.
with a two-third population and 70% workforce are residing in rural areas. And rural economy also constitutes around 46% of national income.
Hmm.
Jump in spending by rural focus ministries. The government expenditure for major rural focus ministry rose by around 109% year on year for the first 2 months of the ongoing financial year.
Right.
Extension of PM Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, which is as of now controversial, and anyway, for
Hmm.
another 5 months at a cost of rupees 90,000 crore. Manrega allocation in all-time highs to 1 lakh crore. Massive reverse migration has happened. People have gone back to their villages. Rural electricity position, thus access to media has also improved. And there is a very good news that bumper Rabi crop around 6% higher than the 2019. Good
Right.
monsoon. The fast-moving consumer goods sector in rural and semi-urban India is estimated to cross USD dollar 100 billion by 2025. The rural
Hmm.
FMCG market is anticipated to expand at a CAGR of 17.4% during 2009 to 25. Again, rural FMCG market accounts for 40% of overall FMCG market in India in revenue terms. Thus, growth and development of rural economy and population are a key to overall growth and inclusive development of the country. So, do you really feel that the percent contribution coming from the rural segment will increase vis-a-vis the urban segment? Will it be temporary, or permanent in nature? Would overall shift will balance out or overall sales revenue and profit of branded products will increase because the people who have shifted to villages, I think, has have habit of using the branded products. So I think this data shows that there is a very strong demand in the rural areas, and there may be a decline in urbanization. What do you feel?
So, actually, it's a very good question, and I think a very tough question to answer, right? So, for FMCG, one rule has always been important. And if you see the last few years, for established categories, it has been largely rural, which has been driving growth. Right? So that's one point. The second thing is that we are a workforce of 500 million or so, out of which 120 million is migrant.
Yes.
20% of our workforce is migrant workforce, right? Now, wherever this migrant workforce is available, that is a pocket of demand, right? So if they have gone back, they will go back with their demand, right? And it's not only urban workforce. I can tell you in cities also, people who are all the offices, like in Bangalore, all offices are virtually shut or operating at 10%, 15% capacity. All people have gone back to their homes. Some have gone to villages, some have gone to towns, tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns, and so on. So there is a demand shift which is happening purely because there is a demographic shift which is happening, right? There is a people shift which has happened. So same thing has happened in rural. So yes, so that has happened, right? But I was reading some survey on this as to migrant labor, which is the largest proportion of this migrant, right? They are the bulk of people and so on. What is their view on their migration? This is some survey done in June. Right? So out of 100%, about 50-55% said they will go back to their original areas. Okay? And primary reason being that I have not much opportunity here. Right? Okay, so that's one. The second thing is that there was a significant proportion who said, I will go somewhere close by now. I will go to towns which are easier nearby.
Yes.
Earlier, people average distance was higher. And there are 5-6 states which contribute to the bulk of this movement, and 6-7 states who receive the bulk of this movement. Right?
So the
So,
migrant corridors have changed.
have changed quite a bit, and they are likely to change because people are saying, no, I think there will be something available in closer towns and so on. At least I know if there's a problem, I can come. That's
Yes.
one more thing. So these are two things. So in the short term, we will see some of this panning out. In the long term, I think, yeah, there have been many moves by the government to help people there. I think all the things you mentioned. Uh, but in the long term, I think it depends on how the rural economy itself takes off. What is the long term prospect for rural economy? And it is linked to larger economic questions, right? Right now, okay, our first quarter economy is really bad, right? And people are saying that even second quarter may not be very good. Right?
Yes.
It may be worse, right? So if that is the case, then where does the locus of economics stand, right? So for example, they say that the average amount sent back as remittance by migrant labor to their homes is 7,000, 7,500, 7,000 rupees or so.
It's a
Right?
big amount.
Now, when he's 7,000 rupees, right? Average remittance. I mean, there is a broad band, but I think about 60-70% is more than 5,000. Right? 60% is more than 5,000. Now, when you get back, currently you're employed in Manrega, you're employed in some of these things. These are not very high valued, right? So, is your cost of living so low in rural India that your disposable income will increase on an ongoing basis? I don't know. It depends on how much more money is available in your hand, right? So if I find that it is cheaper for me to be in my own state because there are economic opportunities and hence my saving potential is higher, then only will this continue. Otherwise, we are going to see people going back because that's the way they have seen I can make some money and save some money for my home, right? So long term, I think it depends on how the economy takes off and what specifically happens in the rural economy. And there are few things, and we are an agrarian economy, at least in rural India, there is agriculture and there are services.
Yes.
But fundamentally, the backbone is agrarian, right? So can we get the farmer income, which the whole government's thrust is towards that, and they're also trying to do this whole move of removing APMC by so many states, is a positive step, because then the farmer has price discovery. There is some amount of disintermediation, so some amount of money will go back to the real farmer, right? So all of that should help, but how much will that help, and how long will it remain, and as compared to urban India, is something to be seen. I'm not an economist, so I can't answer that question very definitively. But these are the let's say, pivot points which will determine how it is. Okay. So
How
I
the
think, yeah.
how the FMCG companies are looking rural areas as an opportunity in what they are doing.
So no, I think definitely for the last few years, rural has been an important thing for us. And of all, if you see, or even the economic results, the details which have come out, the only sector which is kind of okay is agriculture. Every other sector, whether it is a government supported sector or a private sector, all sectors have shrunk massively, right? Only agrarian, because of good monsoon and so on, it is good. So that amount of thing is there. So rural has been important, and both from a marketing and from a distribution angle. If you see the number of distributor points across companies which have got increased there, or number of models which are even e-commerce, if you see, the growth this time has come, whatever growth they have seen, the largest proportion of that growth has come from tier 2, tier 3 towns.
Oh,
Not come from tier 1, right? So there is that pent-up demand on account of migration, etc. And hence they will also go deeper and deeper. There are rural specific e-commerce ventures which have got created now or getting accelerated. So for traditional companies, rural has always been important. As a company also, I think we have always tried to do more on rural. But and I think with improving infrastructure so that your cost of delivery come down, improving infrastructure at the last mile and all that, I think that all of us are accelerating towards tapping that, no doubt. Of course,
because
there is also a value equation to be kept in mind. Especially in this current context where people don't have that much money, people are very value conscious. So how do you then design products for value conscious consumers, or how do you take that portfolio ahead? So you have to make SKU choices, you have to make brand choices around that. But that I think is happening.
in last few years, infrastructure has rapidly increased in all the rural areas. And on 15th August, our Honorable PM has also announced new schemes for the villages. So I think in the
Correct.
years to come, people will become more aware of all is this e-commerce, and it might
Yeah.
increase in the, as you have said, that it has increased in tier 2 town, and it might
Yeah.
go to more rural areas also.
Possible, very much. I would say it is very much possible, very much possible. And yeah, I think with the infrastructure, also the thrust behind infrastructure increasing so much, people can access them. But I think fundamentally it comes down to, will people have disposable income? The supply side initiatives are important, but do people have income to spend? That will determine how sustainable this is and
Yes,
how fast it will grow.
exactly, exactly. So thank you so much for this answer. Now I will come to my last question, and it is a relatively a psychological question for all of us
Hmm.
regarding the mental health. If you see, corporates have always had a critical role to play in India's development and progress. In
Yeah.
this time of pandemic, the contribution of corporate has become even more invaluable. Uh, if we have to bounce back stronger as an organization and nation. However, organizations are now having to deal with an entirely new spectrum of issues, uh, such of it having to do with the mental health of their employees. Unfortunately, isolation from society, the inflow of bleak pandemic-related information, the fear of contracting, the looming economic recession, and a sense of helplessness are all impacting people mental well-being adversely, causing a lot of stress, anxiety, depression, and other mental health concerns. A survey by the Indian Psychiatric Society revealed that during lockdown 1 itself, I'm talking about the lockdown 1, there had been
Hmm.
an alarming 20% rise in mental health concerns. This crisis has in many ways also become a turning point for corporate India's ecosystem, with both positives and negatives emerging from it. It is a big challenge how to deal with it. I think it is very, very important for all of us. And it is the responsibility of corporates to help their employees, to the society. So what do you think about it?
No, yeah, I think, yeah, I think corporates have a responsibility to their employees, no doubt about that. And hence, yeah, okay, let me put it this way. There are two basic issues here. One is, uh, do I have a job or not? That's the first issue. So then, am I economically secure? If
Yes,
my economic security is not there, then I am under terrible stress. That's one type. The second stress is, okay, I have a job, but I have a different kind of stress now. These are two, in my mind, slightly different issues,
yes, yes,
right? In the first case, it's about economic security, and hence, what can organizations do to help? So, I think large companies, by and large, it's very good to note that that no large company has taken any drastic actions to
yes,
reduce their impact. I think that shows very, very responsible corporate behavior from most large corporates. So I think to that extent, large corporates have it. But I think there are other firms who are not able to do that. Right? Even firms like who are in the startup space or who are fledgling companies or SMEs, very difficult for them to do that. So there, I guess that economic turmoil has had a huge cost on people who have lost their jobs, or even the migrant labor which we were talking about, and so on. Right? We only think of offices, but there is migrant labor, there are mid workers, there are factory workers, there are SME factory workers, and so on and so forth. We are a like very disparate economy, right? The organized sector is only exportion,
because MSME are under great stress.
very, very high stress. Despite all the things government is doing there, I mean, they're under stress. So the overall economy is low, right? So I think that is a separate thing. And I think corporate India has dealt with it well, I would say, at least on this. Now comes to the second part. The second part is around how is this working from home, this whole new way of working. How do I, what I was used to? It's a complete disruption in my life, right? So how do people adjust to this? How do corporates enable them to adjust? I think that's a separate question, and equally important question. So I think there we have gone through a couple of phases. The first few weeks post lockdown, like I said, everybody was scrambling just to figure out this new way of working.
Yes,
Right? So that was the initial phase where stress levels would have been high because you are not organized for it. Now, many people don't have laptops at home, don't have Wi-Fi at home. All of that, how do you organize for? And Tati, I'm saying office staff. Factory level was a slightly different situation. So, but how do you organize for that? What proportion of your workforce can actually work from home? How do you keep people secure, and at the same time, how do you keep work going? So those at every point you're taking some calls on that. Right? That's one. Second is then if I'm working from home, which is what has been the largest disruption, then what does it mean? Does it mean that I have no time schedule? Earlier I had a time schedule to go in and come out, and then at least by and large I had my own time. Does it mean there is no time schedule? I have no. What is my new way of socializing? What is my new way of meeting people? I'm socially isolated. What do I do with that? Now there I think there are, in my mind, there are two things. One is what does a person do in that, and what does the organization do? The organization, I think, what it can do is, I think most companies have moved on to that, are now getting slowly organized for that, saying how do you have more focused meetings, how do you move people, you give them some time off. There are people have announced one Monday in a month, just beyond your weekend is free for you, and so on, because people are also realizing, yeah, people are under stress, so they are trying to put in place better IT, better project management system, and so on. So there has been an adjustment there. And at a personal level, I think there an individual has to take responsibility. And I can say from my own circle, I was very happy to see that most people have realized that look, this is a different phase. Initially when this happened, all of us thought people will become fat, they are not moving, and so on and so forth. In fact, it has flipped around. There are people who are now who are much more who are spending that extra time of which they have saved on travel, etc., on keeping themselves fit, made physically fit. Second, people are saying, yeah, this is a great time for me to retool, rethink, learn new skills. And I think organizations are also helping in that. So there are people who are not only, I think organizations have organized online courses free for people. Organizations are organizing yoga classes for people, and so on and so forth. Saying that, okay, community, you can come, you can at least virtually see other people also doing yoga along with you, so you feel connected, and so on and so forth. I think HR has played a very vital role in this, in getting that, giving that comfort, and still trying to maintain bonds of people and that need for socialization which we have. To me, I think, so this is how I think people have adapted, but still a work in process, I think. And I think, to me, it's a great opportunity for an organization. If you ask me, this whole pandemic is a great organization for any organization to think what are the great things which we were able to do during this thing. For example, meetings are so much more focused right now. Hierarchies have dissipated because in the same meeting, the two or three levels who need to take a call are sitting. Because the crisis, when the crisis happened, it required everybody's hands on deck. So then you realize, oh, decision making can be really fast. I don't need to wait for somebody. I don't need to do all that. Right? People are saying, okay, this is how project management can happen. IT companies have been doing it for years. Can't we learn something from that and organize ourselves? And can we create support process to do that? And if I push this further and further, you can say, why can't I organize myself to run in small teams? If these are the small teams who need to take those calls together, why can't they run like that? And my role should only, as you become senior and senior, your role should not be to control information and do something. It should be only encouraging and coaching people, saying, how do these teams work together? HR can think of, do we need to team incentivize or do we still want individual incentivization? I think there are lots of things which are available for us to think of. And hence, we can organize ourselves better for a more agile operation, I think. In a sense, I think this helps us think that.
So really very interesting to have your logical, scientific, psychological answer. And it is very, very interesting. I think it is very interesting to keep on listening you your great insights. But time is limited, so I will take out some extra time. So my last question: there is a lot of pessimism in the market, industry, and the people. Are you still
Hmm.
optimistic?
By nature, I'm an optimist,
Oh,
and I
good.
think every adversity, whenever it has come in the world and whenever it has hit people, is a is a is an opportunity to rethink many things and regroup that. So I think Indians by nature, as a country, I would say, Indians by nature are born resilient, have to be resilient if you have to survive in the country, and that is there in us. It just needs to be tapped. So I think we have the resilience, and as long as we have the openness of mind to think through these things and say this is what we will do differently, this is what we were doing well, we will continue doing, but these are things which we have seen during this crisis, and we will do differently. This crisis is not going to last forever, right? It is going to go off. But these are the things which we have learned from here. Can we tap into the whole potential and the resilience of our people to say we can do many more things now? Because we have gone through such a tough time together, we can do many more things. And I am optimistic about that. I think there are many problems to be fixed, right from the economy to this and so on. But I think I am optimistic, saying that this will teach us many things. And if we are willing to learn and humble enough to accept and learn, we will come out stronger.
I think good to
So
hear.
that's my
Good to
view.
hear optimism from you. So, Mr. Paritosh, if I sum up, I think your insight and answer or advice or suggestion to the industry or to the people, uh, I think very, very focused on all areas of socio, economic, psychological, consumer. uh, responsibility of corporate responsibility of an individual and the future. I think very very interesting to have a great interaction from you, and I think industry will definitely take it forward, and it will be easier for them to sum up their future plans. And thank you so much for coming on the show. And please take care of your health and all the best to you. Thanks once again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking. I hope it helps somebody, actually. But
Definitely,
I enjoyed
uh,
speaking.
you
I
are in.
enjoyed thinking about these questions. I think they were very good questions for us to think of in this conversation. And thanks again.
Okay, thank you so much. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best. Take care. Be safe.